Now let's see if we can read 5 lines of the book before we get cut off again by Periscope. That was interesting. We never got cut off that quickly before. That was quite interesting. So here we go. So according to this, he has been labeled a misogynist, self-hating homophobe, self-hating anti-Semite, Islamophobe, transphobe, racist, fascist, alt-right, white supremacist, Nazi, and finally
اللي حد الباب تحت اللي عملت امبارح كل بنت اشد والبقيه تحت مش نغمس بس اللي حد الباب على two side. اما did you have to see them?
back temporarily, yeah.
So that's me not for sure.
It was never kinky party today. I jinxed it with your excitement. That tends to be the case. So let me put this phone in my left hand and this one in my right, and let us pray. So, as you guys know, I am trying to support true liberalism. Those who support free speech, who perhaps may not agree with Milo and yet absolutely defend his right to say anything and everything. It was never his intention to begin his first book by discussing the differences between pedophilia and hebephilia. Interesting stuff. And yet, as Father Mike always says, well, okay, so he listens to someone called Father Mike, God won't put anything in front of you that you can't take. Okay? That's his belief. Obviously, I'm not going to agree with that. Let me make it abundantly clear, no matter what your news sources have told you, I do not condone in any way pedophilia or hebephilia. Okay, fair enough. I believe you know this, otherwise you wouldn't have bought my book. That's pretty persuasive. Okay, I almost gave up on my mission, but thousands of fans have brought him back. So if any of you guys are fans of Milo, well done. I'm a fan of free speech, so I'll defend Milo and Linda Sarsour. I don't really care. My enemies thought I had been vanquished. They couldn't be more wrong. Of course not. This is completely what you would expect. You can't suppress biological temperaments. Okay, so here we go. Lost him 3 jobs, effectively putting a dent in the percentage of employed black men versus white. These are terrible jokes, which if one doesn't have a sense of humor, it is easy to be offended at those type of things. Okay. My ego was massive, but I am not so far gone that I can't admit when I've said something stupid. Fair enough. I do not plan out or memorize arguments before appearing on a show, because I think that's boring, darling. You can still be conservative and yet be liberal. I like that idea. You can be a liberal conservative. Absolutely. If that's the case, then I'm a liberal progressive. How's that? So we all have our liberalism in common. I said that a grown man having sex with a 13-year-old is not pedophilia. This is a factual statement. That's actually better, because I saw that interview when it came out and I thought nothing of it. Because what he was saying was that these people who were abused, they're still getting abused. So he's not condoning it. He's saying that he was explaining a situation, as far as I understood it at the beginning, hey, the whole family's here, man. Pretty cool. He was explaining that they come from abuse and move into another form of abuse. That's how I understood it with my stupid autistic brain. At the time, I didn't see anything in it. So the men he had sex with when he was 13 were not pedophiles, at least not with him. They were hebephiles. It's a silly semantic to discuss. All right, fair enough. Now, some critiques would say, well, you're inventing a word or using fundamentalist etymological arguments to help support your defense when clearly you were supporting pedophilia. That would be some sort of fake leftist argument. And then, of course, the response would be, well, that's exactly what everyone else is doing with other words such as Islamophobia, such as what it means to be a conservative. Hey, James Joseph, we're doing since there are not many outspoken liberals around who actually give a hell about free speech in the West, I thought it was my responsibility to give up some uni study. I was supposed to go to work, and I said, no, I'll go to work this afternoon, and I will read some of this to you guys, and then I'll go study. All right, I then resigned, and even Manolopoulos even says he would love to have an honest liberal be able to argue with him. And unfortunately, if no one else is going to do it, I have to read this book. What else can we do? All right. Here we go. So he was disinvited by CPAC. And the utter something, I won't use the word, at Simon & Schuster cancelled his book deal. That part I agree with. Good morning. Good morning to all of you, my dear beloved friends. I actually agree with that part because of my natural dislike for the conservative establishment. Um, it's easier for me because I'm not a conservative. So if I see a asshole conservative, I just go after them, which is not really good. It's not healthy. My critics loved it. Huffington Post even had some unpaid hack gloat about it, about him being banned from CPAC. Interesting. So now they're siding with CPAC, suing. The truth, which they are too simple to understand, is that he never saw himself as a victim. Darlings, I'm not a victim. Okay. There weren't other gay kids in the school like there are now. See, now he's starting to sound a bit more left-leaning liberal here when I see this. My limp-wristed routine was the only show in town. I had few options and a high sex drive. If my abusers had been women, I'd be getting high fives all around, not having to start my first book like this. He just won't accept it. Well, there you go. That's another conclusion. I mean, it's true. Everyone can be a victim, I guess, to varying degrees. Looking back now, I can, of course, see what happened to me wasn't right. Even if I was literally asking for it, I was a victim of sexual abuse. However, I want to make this perfectly clear. The whole thing takes up less space in my head than the time David Bowie called me out on a shitty Louis Vuitton knockoff. Fair enough. The only way... Okay, so here is the argument against why censored, I guess, from Milo. He says here, the only way that he can truly be a victim is to wallow in what happened and let it define him. Pro-America. Patriot. Hey, Dad. So that's interesting. So now we are establishing the definition of what a victim is. So as far as Milo is concerned in his book, yeah, he's saying... Oh, thank you. He is saying that the idea of victim is to wallow in what happened and let it define him. And that's, I think, the difference between me as a true liberal. Are you always a victim if you've been abused? Well, it depends on once again, we come back to the definition of victim. See, one of the arguments that I have, especially on the left, is that there are multiple definitions to words. So, and we only extract one of those. And I had to learn that, obviously, to learn how to function with humans. The definition of abuse. Yeah, exactly. So you have, and the word abuse, as my understanding is of neurotypicals, is that a highly emotive content. And then, therefore, it activates the emotional part of the brain, and it disallows people from hearing the logic of whatever else was around that word. Victim mentality, yeah. So we have to be careful when we're listening to each other's arguments. And I try to do that with you guys. Like, a lot of you say things, and my brain is like, hold on, that's not what they meant. You know, and then you realize you may not even know what the other meanings are of the words. So if you talk to a fake leftist and you say Islamophobia, in your head, what Islamophobia means is different to what it means to them. In fact, my definition of Islamophobia is the same as the fake left, because being on the left, that's my definition. The difference is I understand that when another conservative says Islamophobia, they might have a fundamentalist interpretation, and there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to understand where someone's coming from, so you can have a proper discussion. Is it that difficult, really? I mean, I feel like a 5-year-old would know this type of thing, right, these days, and everyone here's probably thinking the same thing, like, what the hell? Anyway, so let me just take a sip of this coffee. My lovely father just saw me sitting here and made a coffee for me. He puts so much sugar in it. I feel like there's more sugar than coffee, but he's a sweetheart. All right. So according to him, having sex with a priest, hearing facts is in the training. Yeah. It's the same with atheists. When, you know, I hear Christians say to me all the time, like not just here, but everywhere, they say to me, you're not really an atheist. And I say, well, I am. But then, because we're having a different discussion on what it means to be an atheist, catch some Gapversity later. Hey, Kevborn, anytime, man. Good luck. Good luck learning to become the military intelligence. I've never bought... Okay, so here we have a little coffee with my sugar, damn straight. Milo was 13... and having sex with a priest didn't stop him from having and enjoying sex the rest of his life. You missed the owl. Me too. So here is another argument here. Now, this can be taken in two ways. The way I would read this, do I believe in a higher power? My brain doesn't work on belief, but I'll just say that I don't have the confidence to say there is not one. Damn priest. Right here, so this could be taken in a different way. I can see this on my side being taken as that he's endorsing sex with priests when you're 13. And the problem is that I can see that as a legitimate interpretation of what he just wrote. So people would want him banned based upon that. And that's a problem. So this is what I say to conservatives, right? As being a true liberal, I'm going to say things to you guys, and out of respect and understanding, where no one else is going to say this stuff. I think, honestly, that is a legitimate interpretation. And that might not be what he means at all. And I highly doubt it. I would say 99.9% that's not what he's saying, right? Based upon everything else. But it is a legitimate interpretation of the text if you don't listen to enough of Milo to, I guess, understand where he's coming from. And that miscommunication can lead to problems, especially with people who are more emotive than logic in their brains. So there is one problem there that I suggest with the book. Okay, so this one is pretty good. Get over it. Even though it seems like victim status is the best way to earn a living right now, Milo assures you that it's not. You are far too fabulous and smart for all that, darling. All right? Get the F over it, he says. Sometimes tragedy can produce greatness. Madonna got raped in New York and made erotica, and she never griped about it being a victim until the 2010s. Tori Amos made a whole career out of being raped, and he's plagiarized freely from her in this book. Tori Amos. It means not being stuck in place by it. Okay, so he's now, over the last 2 pages, defined what it means to be a victim. And when he says victim, she did, yeah. When Milo says victim, I can now conclude, I would say, to at least 70-80% certainty, that he means not physically being the literal interpretation of victim, which is to have something done to you that you did not consent to do in a negative or adverse fashion, even positive. Saw her in concert. But he's saying that it's how you react to being a victim, having the victimhood control you as opposed to you controlling it, a victor of the victim. That's right. So he's saying, do not be just a victim like we all are, be a victor of the victim. Now there you go. There's another hashtag, man. We always get, this is a hashtag machine, this think tank that we have together. Being a victor of the victim. So the reason that this is important is because when I'm arming you guys to have discussions with liberals, because one of my goals is to get other true liberals who maybe are afraid to talk and who really agree with me but love free speech at the same time, as I do. So when you're having a discussion with someone on the liberal side of the aisle or the left-wing side of the aisle, it's important to realize what your words mean in their head, I guess. And I don't really know, but I'm inferring, as I say. So as you say, when you say to someone victim status, right, in the liberal mind, that sounds like you don't care about the victim, where what you really mean is learning to be the victor of your victimhood, as opposed to letting it be the victor of you. In your experience. Well, communication is dead. Well, we'll try to bring it back. Now there's another truck here. Man, this is the busiest road in the universe, and it's not even it's a cul-de-sac. Alright, let's keep going. I want to go study soon. Alright. Well, you're talking to me, so that's a start, right? Here we go. Marilyn Manson. If you told me not to swallow a pill, I'd mash it up and snort it out. If you told me not to have sex with your boyfriend, I'd sleep with your brother and send you a recording. Yeah, I mean, that is that dissident sort of rebellious behavior. That's completely what I love. I love that. Okay, Atlas shrugged. I thought this is Poppycop. F anyone who tells me what I can and cannot read. I finished it 3 days later. Everything became clear to me. My need to rebel. Okay, yeah, I completely get that. No, they don't. Why would they? So your job is to do I guess at least If he wasn't a victim, he wouldn't have had that event to be victorious. Well, once again, we're doing the same thing. Which derivative of the meaning of victim are you referring to? Are you referring to the fact that it happened to him, or the fact that he got over it? Or when you say get over it, like not allow it to control his life in a way. Okay. So he has a rebellious nature. We understand that. Latter, yeah. Flippant language when discussing, but that's just only ideal with darkness. All right, so this is all defending himself, so I'm going to skip some of the repeated stuff. The media is not interested in fighting pedophilia. If you think CNN Jake's Tapper was angrily tweeting about Milo on behalf of his anonymous victim-prone friend having sex with the priest. Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting pod. It was, and people don't like braggers, I think. Yeah, he bragged. It's the fact that he bragged as opposed to, yeah. That's a very interesting point, actually. And I think that messes with a lot of humans and their own egos. Okay, here we go. How did Jake Tapper, who calls himself a journalist, spend so much time talking about Milo and pedophilia without once mentioning his role in outing Nicholas Nyberg, a male to female tranny, self-confessed pedophile and white nationalist apologist? Part of the problem. Well, I have a different reason. I defend Jake Tapper because I actually like Jake Tapper, and most of you are going to hate him, so... He's a media actor. He is a media actor. Holla. Jake Tapper is a media actor, but you see, I actually... accepting that that's his role makes me not dislike him, because he's not doing anything I wouldn't expect. So, for example, it says here by Milo, here's my answer to Milo. He says, why would he chase Milo and not Nicholas Nyberg? Because Nicholas Nyberg was a pedophile whom Milo caught and exposed. Well, the reason I submit is because that's boring. And the media makes money off sensationalism. That's their job. That is the job of the media, to be sensational, not to tell the truth. I get him in that role, not for journalism. Absolutely. No, it's not journalism is, for most people, boring. People aren't interested in real journalism. So the problem is with us. That's why I banned myself, right, from watching news unless I have to look at it for bias reasons. But I'm not going to go look there for my news. I'm going to look at it understanding that it is corrupt and it is sensationalist. And that's fine. That's what it is. If you understand that media is sensationalist and it's there to make money, obviously, or something right now. Yeah, that's right. Got the coffee right here. Well, people don't want facts straight out. They don't, because if you go to the news, it says one person died today, but it doesn't tell you about the million who didn't die, because that's not interesting. Of course, that's true. And as long as that's what education is important for. Yeah, see, Stratford, for example, is pretty damn awesome, but they're not as persuasive because they're closer to facts. Alright, sorry, I can't read everyone's comments, but I do love everyone. Self-confessed pedophile, okay. And even his name is boring, Nicholas Nyberg. Did you even remember that? In 5 minutes' time, you're going to forget his name. Now, someone in 5 minutes is going to type Nicholas Nyberg. And that's not a bad thing, by the way. If someone reminds, we can do hashtags like remember Nicholas Nyberg. And you can do stuff like, that's real news. That is always putting the balance in the situation. Right? But if I was Jake Tapper and I could sleep at night working in that role, which clearly he can do, and gets paid, millions of dollars to do that, then of course he's going to attack Milo and not defend Milo. Why would he defend Milo? That's insane. Because he's going to lose heaps of money, going to lose his job. And humans prefer to look after their own family and their own wallet in general. And I don't have my own family, like kids and stuff, so I don't know what I'd do in that situation. But I can imagine if I had children. Yeah, thank you. All right, so op-eds written about him, which is, here we go, single mention of Luke Bozier. So here's another one. Now Milo is mentioning Luke Bozier. Hey, Yukon. A former business associate of the anti-Trump Louise Mensch, who was arrested on suspicion of viewing indecent images of children after I reported on him. There's also Chris Laydon, who was found guilty of making indecent images of children and is now facing a rape trial. So all of these things, and he's like, how come they don't mention it? Well, we know why. So our job as free speech people is to use our brains and think, what are we not seeing? What are we not seeing? That's another hashtag for you. What are we not seeing? That's a brilliant one. You'll love that. What are we not seeing? Hashtag what are we not seeing, my friends? And that is an awesome hashtag where you can post all news articles you want, left and right, doesn't matter, conservative, well, I don't care. If there's a news article that pops up and you know that that's just telling a superficial version, post it to hashtag what are we not seeing. All right, so now we come to Salon. Look at this guy. Look at these guys. What are we not seeing? You guys are warriors, man. I love it. Freaking love it. Yeah. It's freaking brilliant. Exactly. Yeah. So I guess if you want, just put it in your calendar. I put these things in my calendar. Once a week I'll put something in, do something. What you do to the left, you must do to the right. Mental algebra, yeah. All right, so once we come Vice glowing prefer, while leftist journalists here, then I get upset because he says leftist journalists, and that sort of really, that infuriates me being on the left and I support free speech. So it's not his fault. It's, once again, it comes to the meaning of the word. So leftist, right, you guys would never think of me as a leftist, even though I'm actually way on the left. But you guys think of a leftist as someone who is authoritarian. Your left is a different left. It's true left. That's exactly right. So that's what I mean. That's what I mean where we have differences in communication. And I can understand that and not get upset with Milo for writing leftist. But of course, it actually helps me because then I can stand up and say, no. That's fake leftism, which is the nickname for authoritarian left. The authoritarian left, if anyone wants to know their history, you look up the French Revolution. There was a guy called Maximilien, which I think in English is spelt Maximilian. Maximilian? He was the first famous fake leftist in modern history. And he had his head cut off in the end by the conservatives with the rise of Napoleon III, who was the original Trump. So if anyone wants to look at that guy was a maniac. He was a maniac. And that guy is the idol of the fake left. So if anyone here wants to understand, it doesn't take long. It's like one page on Wikipedia. Look up Maximilien, type in Maximilien French Revolution, Maximilian French Revolution, and you'll see this asshole, his rise to power and then his eventual head cutting off by the original Trump. And the people loved it. Everyone was right. Everyone rose up as like, USA. All right. So here, Todd Nickerson, the virtuous pedophile who alleges he never harmed children and never will, also said behind the cover of an internet pseudo, bring back the guillotine. Nah, definitely not hashtagging that. Because then your head will get cut off. Protect children from harm, not sex. That's interesting. See, so there was an internet pseudonym that his goal was to protect children from harm, not sex. Interesting. You see, in Iran, the legal age for a woman to get married is 9 or 7, 6 or 9. I think it's 6. They dropped it from 9 to 6, I think. Jesus Christ. I don't know, man. I don't get that stuff. I mean, for me, like, if I see, this is a really good example. So at the where I'm learning that language of the Nazarene, aka Jesus, there is a mother and daughter, and they look identical, right? Now, the mother is gorgeous, right? And yeah, that's right. The mother is gorgeous, and so I think I have there's always that lust that wants to come forward, and you suppress it. So you're like, she's beautiful, you'd love to kiss her, but you push that thought away as a grown human being. But they still come to get rid of it. What's interesting is her daughter looks exactly like the mother. The daughter's like 7 or 8 years old. And all you think is that you want to protect her, you want to squeeze her cheeks, you want to teach her. Like, it's a natural impulse. So that's a perfect scientific example. Oh, welcome back. Kevborn had plans, got cancelled. He went and killed someone and came back. He's like, plans cancelled. Kevborn. Too funny. Yeah, so that's a pretty good detector to know that you're like a healthy human male, because you actually have completely different thoughts for women who freaking look identical but are of completely different ages. So that's very interesting. So I don't understand the nature of the pedophile. I don't understand how their brain is missing that, and so they somehow sexualize a child. It's very weird, and I don't. Here's an interesting liberal perspective. They need to be kept away from society if, for the safety of our children. But because I'm not a believer in free will, at least not 100% free will, then their desire liken it to want to abuse innocent animals. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Look, in terms of the abuse, I agree, because there's no consent. The child cannot consent. Even children who can consent, who are like 17, 18, to me, they're children. There are some exceptions. There's always an exception, like you could meet a 19-year-old girl, just castrate. Yeah, you castrate. And the thing is, I've heard interviews by pedophiles who are happy to be castrated, because then they can have a life that's at least not detrimental to these innocent children, right? And that's something to discuss, because clearly there is something in their brain that even allows them to think that stuff. Because most of us, like adults, men and women, we don't even think that, right? It's such a foreign idea. Like I said, and it's a spectrum, as I was saying. Like a woman, for me, maybe because I'm getting older, like sociopaths, yeah. And autistics and everyone, right? Yeah. So, like for me, a woman starts to get really good looking at about 30. And then up until, and it's changing for me, because now that I'm getting older, between 30 and 50, and even some at 60 are just gorgeous. But there are always exceptions. So there are some 19-year-old girls who are not girls. Like they intellectually and physically and everything are maybe like 25, 26-year-olds. But that's like 1 in 100 million, right? Maybe. So it's a spectrum. And as they get older, they start to become more and more like fine scotch. Yeah, a lot of them do. I don't know about all of them, but I think the fake leftists get uglier, if that's even possible. All right. So we've now done 3% of the book. Once we get to 5%, I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to go do some study on gabversity. 29 for a few years now. Hey. Mature women like fine wine come with age. They come of age. Hey. Is that a dirty joke? It must be getting older, because when I was 20... No, actually, when I was 20, I really liked 35-year-old women. Now that I'm 36, I really like 35-year-old women. So maybe that's what it is. By the way, genetically, biologically, that's the sexual peak of a female at around 35. And for a male, it's 17. I think for me, it was 14. All right. So now, so we're skipping what Milo said. Okay, disinvite me from CPAC. Now, here's the thing about CPAC. I despise CPAC. I despise CPAC as much as I despise the DNC. And the reason is not because of the people. Absolutely not because of the people. It's because the institution itself seemingly leads itself to chance of prevention of most. Well, that might be a good thing. More sex. It seems that the institution itself allows more of the elitist mentality to get into CPAC. And I think it's part of human nature that some humans over time become more elitist, depending on how they were raised, etc. And there was something my brother said to me yesterday. Comfort is the mother of complacency. Comfort is the mother of complacency. My brother said that to me yesterday, and I thought to myself, that's a brilliant observation. My brother's a conservative, so he actually said the father of complacency. And I changed it to the mother, being a liberal. I thought mother's more persuasive. So comfort is the mother of complacency. Yeah, absolutely. And comfort is what breeds elitism. And it breeds weakness, and it breeds fake leftism too. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I would have been on the fake left. You're talking to someone living in the Middle East and seeing what I saw. That is what changed me. If it wasn't for that, that really saved my life. All right. So Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Man, Malcolm X was a gangster. He was a gangster. I love that guy. Love that guy. You know, Malcolm X had something about empowering the black community. Now, for me, there's two options, right? For me, I don't really care about color, but some people do. So there are some people who happen to be black, happen to have black skin or dark skin, and they want to be part of that community for whatever reason. All right, that's fine. Well, more power to them. And I don't want them to have to be something they're not. I want them to be who they are, be true to themselves, and I'll support that. If they think that they're superior to white people, he was a Muslim. This is true. I was also a Muslim, which I haven't told you, so you might hate me now. But Malcolm X was killed by Muslims because he was more of a true Muslim. His philosophies actually were quite beautiful. They were true more to the idea of the Ahmadiyya and the Sufiyin and stuff. These are one extraction of Muslims, and I won't talk about it today, but there are some extractions of Muslims who 100% support the West, and they would be the best friends against the other Muslims, man. It would be amazing to get them on our side. Look out, world. Father Dome and Gab. Father Dome is a gangster, man. We have this word in Lebanese. In Lebanese, it's wahash. Wahash, it means beast. It's like a really, really terrible word, but our generation took it and made it a good word. So the Dome Father is a wahash, man. It's like he's a freak. He's a wahash, wahash. It means beast, like, you know, like a barbarian beast, like something horrible. But we turned it into like wahash, man. So it's really mad. I was saying to the Dome Father this morning, beast mode. Yeah, he's a surgeon. The guy's a surgeon. Yeah, you are a machine, man. Like, he takes all the crap that comes out of my mouth and then just like puts it in this processing freaking algorithm and spits out the most beautiful lecture you've ever seen. Like, I could never do that in a billion years. And that's why, as a liberal, you have to love your conservative brothers and sisters. Or I'm not saying Dome Father's conservative, but in general, like people who have different temperaments, you have to. It's the dumbest thing for the left arm to punch the right arm, as opposed to together lifting up the weights of Western civilization. All right. Damn straight, man. What was that hashtag we came up with? It was really good. I don't even remember anymore. Oh yeah, what are we not seeing? What are we not seeing? That's awesome. That's so cool. I love that we do that together, man. Okay, so he Milo and I are going to start to disagree. So to the victims of homophobia, patriarchy, street harassment, and intolerance, don't worry, we'll put a lid on Muslim immigration. Now that's that's actually funny. That's actually funny, but once again, what are we not seeing, right? Now, this comes back to my argument to Milo, is that it is not Muslim immigration. It is the type of Muslim immigration. Hey, you too, LA child, lovely 29-year-old. 6 more years till you become the most stunning woman on the planet. We're waiting. All right. So, a cult of victimhood, and certainly without safe spaces, as self-centered as Milo is, it's not really about him. They can call me any name they want, but they won't stop me from fighting for your right to speak freely, honestly, and rudely, no matter who does not like it. I agree with that, absolutely. America isn't about where you're from. Now, 29 forever. Nah, get out of your 20s, man. The 30s are the best. I'm telling you now, they are the best. Maybe from a guy's perspective, I'm not sure. But I don't know, man. I think women in their 30s are just, they start to become amazing. So, I mean, there's always exceptions. There are some young women who I think are just the best thing ever, especially when we have so many hostile ones. Yeah, this is why I don't want to silence the right. I'll tell you why. And I'm going to stop here because I've got to go to Gabversity now. The reason I don't want to silence the right is because when they come out with their arguments, it makes my arguments better. Their arguments make my arguments better. If I want to sharpen my knife, I'm not going to sharpen it against the air. I'm going to sharpen it against a stone. Why is it that you don't like Trump? I don't like him temperamentally, but I'm not against Trump. So that's a very weird concept, right? It's like this. I'll give you an example. I don't like fish. I don't like fish, right? But many people love fish, and many people are healthy because of their love for eating fish. So I don't want to ban fish. They need fish. They need that for their nutrients and their sustenance. I don't like fish, so I'm not going to have it. But I respect their right to have the fish. Is that sort of? I hope that sort of makes sense. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it. But what I've said, I predict TV channel. What I've said about Trump, I predicted Trump was going to win. You don't like fish either. Give us Obama, we give you exactly Ernie Banks, man. That is exactly what I was just going to say, but you said it infinitely better than I could have. I predicted Trump was going to win, and you can go to my Facebook and look at it. I predicted it over a year and a half before he was going to win. And to prove that I predicted it, I put all my life savings, which was only $300, but I put all my savings on Trump to win, right? And I won. I made like $1,000, which was great, right? Now, I don't have to support Trump to predict he's going to win. Now, I also hated Hillary, to the depths of hell, so that sort of helps. But the point is, you like Obama. 80% I liked Obama, yes. I hated what he did in the Middle East because I'm from the Middle East and most of my family lives in the Middle East. So what he did there disgusts me. But a lot of what he did for Americans was good. There was a lot of things he did that were bad. So, but I'm not anti-Obama, I'm not anti-Trump. I don't work that way. I try to see what's good in them. I criticize what's bad. And, for example, Obama, I consider him, especially in the last 4 years, to become a self-hating white liberal with a tan. Well, see, I'm actually a proponent of healthcare. I just think that America can't afford it. He is suppressing free speech. I don't think he deliberately went to do that. In my summation, it seems that he is an ideologue. So I obviously disagree with Obama being ideological. You have a rational brain. It's hard to have a rational brain. It really is. And I don't blame people for not having it, right? I had to, because I was abused my whole life and I had to figure out why. And learning why is what got me to see things in this way, I guess, this mathematical way. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, Trump was inevitable. He was inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. Because, I mean, you guys know why, but anyone who's a liberal here, and I've said this so many times on my Facebook Gavsmack blog, I said this for years, trying to take over our constitution. Well, remember that. Remember what you just said, because that's exactly what some Muslims are trying to do to other Muslims. Exactly what fake leftists are doing to your constitution is exactly what some Muslims are trying to do to other Muslims. They're taking the Quran and they're trying to manipulate it and twist it into what they want. Now, the Quran has really bad bits in it and it has amazing bits in it. So I'm not a Muslim, but I studied Islam for 19 years, right? And it's the exact same thing. You're going to have fake leftists. You're going to have authoritarian right-wing maniacs, which are not in the West. They are now in the Middle East at the moment. And they will always try to subvert texts for their own personal agenda because they want to enforce hegemony via the way they view the world. This is completely normal. You're right. Obama did a lot of bad things. Like, he sabotaged Trump. I found out in October, right? In October, before Trump even won, I published this on my Facebook, right? And I said it on Periscope, and it's gone now because Periscope only holds 500 broadcasts, so all my original broadcasts are going. But I'm archiving them on my Patreon site for all of my Patreon subscribers, by the way, so you can still see them whenever you want, privately. Anyway, yeah, Obama deliberately wanted to. Well, I don't know if it's deliberately, but it's pretty obvious that he. So you think the Quran? Do you think the Quran Satan book? Parts of it are, but not. No, if you read the whole thing, that's why you pay. Ernie. If you read the whole thing, it is what it is, right? Just like all of us, we are all good and bad. We all have evil parts in us. We have some bad stuff in us. But when you only look at the bad, you're doing what the fake left does, right? So they're taking stuff out of what Milo Yiannopoulos says and saying that he's evil. And ironically, that's sort of what ultra right-wing people are doing with the Quran. That's why I teach the Quran. I have another channel called Sixlang, Sixlang, and we are up to chapter 2, verse 4 of the Quran. My friend Jibril teaches it. Because then you have the power to make your own judgments instead of just picking up random quotes. Because if you look at all the bad quotes all together, it looks really evil. Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks really, really, really evil. But when you see them spaced between 5 good quotes, then you have a different impression. You still think that those quotes are evil. how many people are taking it wrong. Everyone does. Humans take everything wrong all the time. We're doing it right now. We couldn't even agree at the beginning on what it meant to be a victim. Jibril asked for your hand. He did, that's right. I believe he offered you a few hundred camels. Or maybe a few thousand, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to head off, guys. I'm going to go to Gabversity. I got a lot of quantum mechanics to do. So if anyone's done calculus, welcome aboard. Oh, Patriots United, man. Absolute pleasure. I love your name. And yeah, have a beautiful day. And I'll see the rest of you at Gabversity. But, oh, by the way, one more thing. Yes, Eniak. Yeah, you guys too. Lots of people email me and say, I'm really sorry I haven't seen all of your scopes. Don't worry. Don't worry about seeing my scopes, man. You can see 1 in a million. You can see none. You can see 100, whatever. You have your life, and that's what I'm here for. You know, whenever you come back and watch, all good. August, love you guys. Bye.